So, have you found a job?
Today's episode will be about what everyone is stressing on, the job market.
And with that, welcome to a new episode of
WHOSAY?
My name is Annie,
Hi, I'm Suhana.
and today we have Stephanie, Jing, and Raffles with us to answer our burning questions about the job market, how our peers are faring within the working world, and maybe how to survive it.
Thank you for coming down, everyone. Could you all please give us a short introduction of yourselves?
All right. My name is Raffles. I'm the co-founder of Exabloom.
My name is Jing, and I'm currently working at Carousell.
Stephanie with the Center for Future Ready Graduates right here at NUS.
Yay! Thank
Yay,
you
thank
for
you for
being here.
coming.
Well, they all have one thing in common. They are all NUS alumni.
With a lot of experience.
Yes. And I believe Raffles, you are like fresh off the boat, right? You just graduated 1 or 2 years ago.
Around that time, yes.
Yeah. So I think, we will have a lot of relatable experiences that you guys can share, right? Just to start off, right? What do you guys think about the job market now, today? From what I hear from all my peers, they're struggling to just get an internship. So, what are your comments?
Okay, maybe I'll go first. Exactly how the outlook is like, honestly, I can't tell for sure. But I always have this belief that if you do have the right skill sets that can actually match what the job market wants, you just have a higher chance of actually landing yourself in the positions that you like.
And speaking of the right skill sets, I'm sure Stephanie, you can help us with this. Is there some sort of advantage or anything you've noticed that like NUS students have that maybe sets us apart from the rest?
I think, NUS graduates continue to be very highly sought after by employers. I think year after year, there's actually global studies and the graduates come out well. So I think, yes, speak to that point. And I guess I'm also supposed to say yes, right? Just joking. But kidding aside, I think NUS students are quite fortunate. We generally have a very robust curriculum. I mean, just chatting with Jing and Raffles, and they were surprised to hear about the move towards interdisciplinary colleges,
Yeah.
like the College of Design and Engineering, the College of Humanities and Sciences, so the curriculum itself. And then in terms of getting ready for life beyond the university, at CFG, there's a whole roadmap of resources, activities that students can proactively look at, whether they're undergraduates or postgraduates. And then, this ranges from CFG runs like a whole suite of more than 15 credit-bearing courses related to career and even life, even financial well-being, right? Because really, it's not about just being employable at graduation, but I think the hope is that we equip students to continue to thrive and flourish, right? Not only in their careers, but in other domains of life as well.
Overall,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really felt that, especially in my freshman year. It was in 2020, so like height of the pandemic, and all my classes were online, and one of them was CFG 1002. And I really felt like so. Like, I really felt very taken care of. I felt like from the get-go, they knew that, okay, you want like a good job and we're going to prepare you for it. Like, I was just 18 at the time, so it really wasn't on my mind. But CFG was such a helpful resource. And that's what I try to tell all the freshies that I work with. I'm like, guys, please, there's so much you can do. Like, go on Talent Connect, like go and get your VMOC interviews done. Like, there's so much that NUS has to offer.
Wow, you sound very on the ball as a year
No,
one.
it was because it was the required mod.
Okay. Because honestly, as a year one, I didn't have that requirement, but as a year two, I did. I had this compulsory mod that prepared me for the working life, like research, presentation, and only after that, I realized, wow, I actually need to get a job when I graduate. So that was when all the, should I get an internship start to roll in, like what should I do to prepare for my job? And I think this is what I would say maybe all the year twos and year threes would start stressing about. So I think my question is, which one is more important, our GPA or internships? Looking back, Jing and Raffles, were you guys very stressed about GPA, or were you guys very stressed about internship, or the balance of both?
For me, I would say actually I'm very thankful for NUS. So like you guys say, there's a lot of opportunities, and actually some of our modules here require you to join an internship. So that was what I took. I actually went for the NOC iLead internship program with a local startup. So it actually all counts towards your grades. So really lucky, I went for internship with Carousell.
Oh,
Yeah, where I'm working at
familiar.
right now. So what started off as an internship, it really taught me what it's like working outside. I was really interested, and what started off as just a 6 months internship extended. I actually took a gap year to work there. And right after when I graduated, I continued working at Carousell as well. So for me, definitely the internship experience played a huge role in where I am today. Yeah, but I'm not sure about you guys.
Oh, wow. So that's a pretty linear path, I would say,
Yeah.
converting your internship. But Raffles, yours wasn't as linear, I'm guessing.
It's there's a lot of
Trial and error.
trial and error. Yes, correct. A lot of trial and
Ah.
error. So in my case, right, I didn't put a lot of focus on GPA, but that doesn't mean that I would totally flunked it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would put more focus on actually gaining skill sets, right? Because back then I do have the belief that if I acquire my skill sets over time, it will just compound by itself. And I just decided to do that, and hence I didn't really push too much focus on my grades. I just try to keep it like a decent grade,
Yeah.
right? But of
Decent.
course, I don't want to bring it so low to the point that I would have to constantly worried about failing. Yeah, so I try to balance it over there. But one key thing that I always keep in my head is that okay, if I want to take let's say an internship, what am I learning? Who am I learning with? Who am I working with? Yeah, so typically I'll just find out about roughly the profile of the person that I'll be working with, because to me that is so important.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times people don't really think about who they are working with. It just plays so much. It just influences their learning by so much.
Right.
If you are being attached to someone who is so willing to guide you and mentor you, the learnings that you get, I think is quite exponential, rather than
Right.
someone who's like a little bit more passive.
Right.
I think the difference it makes is actually quite substantial. So knowing who you work with is extremely important.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a very good advice.
I mean, yeah, the 5 people you surround yourself. Like, I'm guessing after all of your experiences, some of the most memorable internships or experiences you've had have been maybe because of the people you've been with.
I normally tell people that most of my learnings are from the people that I met. Again, I have this belief that there is so much that I can learn from other people's experiences. There are things that I know that, of course, I can share with them. But when I hear about their stories, inevitably, I would be inspired about certain things about what they go through in their life. And interestingly, if I find those things inspiring enough, I would actually try to take actions by reading books to go in depth a little bit about what this person have just shared. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, to answer your question, I guess most of my learning is started with people around me.
Yeah.
But if I want to go deep, I normally go with books. And after books, I would, try to implement it in my real life.
Well, to be very honest, I really love the advice of, I guess, sort of nitpicking your internships. Like really researching what you're gonna do for that 3 or 6 months, right? And I think that brings us to the question of how many internships should I have? Because a lot of people are just chonging, they would say, for summer internships, winter internships, and then part-time internships during their semesters. So I guess quality over quantity or quantity over quality. What would you guys have to say about that?
Mm, Maybe I'll chime in. I think this is a question we do get a lot when we have conversations with students. So I think as with all things, the answer is it really depends, right? So I fully agree. It's really about quality of the internships over your quantity, right? And I think it should really start with a good understanding of yourself, who you are, where you are trying to head to. So, whether you are at a stage of still doing self-discovery, right, which is very, very justifiable. For some of us, it could be that you're still trying to understand more about yourself. So, what are your values? What would you love to do? Things like that. What are your skills to begin with, right? And then, you may be trying to do some exploration for other students. And then for some, they are already very certain of the path they're going to take. So I think your number and type of internship should take that form. And at the end of the day, I really like what Raffles said earlier. It's really about the skills. At the end of the day, I think if I were to, jump back a little to the earlier question, right, and see the two together, whether it's a GPA or internship, these are just two of the a variety of factors. If you are meeting an employer, for instance, that they would really look at, right? And skills, really broadly speaking, is like two categories, right? You have, of course, your technical skills. And this is where, for example, if you are in a course of study, like you intend to become an engineer, for instance, then certainly the roles that you're going to look for, the employer would look to a high mastery of certain technical skills. Then in which case, you have to ask yourself, the internships that I'm going to do, the part-time work that I'm going to do, the course of study, how do I demonstrate that I have these skills, right? And a good GPA is a reflection of that.
Exactly.
Right? And a sound internship is a reflection of the fact that you have put these skills into practice and applied them in a real world environment. So these two are both important.
It's both important.
Yes. But when you come to the category of, say, non-technical skills, right? Your soft skills, communication, do people like you, or are you just nasty to work with? Can you work in a team? Things like that. These actually, in my personal experience and opinion, get more and more important as you progress in your career, in truth. A larger part of your role would become people management. Like if you wanted to be an entrepreneur, at some point you need to manage and rally, motivate teams, right? So that, while GPA and internships can go some way to that, even things like your active student life, it hones a lot of that. Like if you are a leader, in one of the student groups. So I think it's really like building all these skills towards like being very intentional, not just random skills, right? But intentional about the direction that you want to go, like making sure that it syncs with what you like to do.
Yeah, one trend that I've heard recently is that when employers want to hire interns, they don't give you a job description. They see what you can offer, and then they see what you can offer to the company, and then that's how they hire you. And then when you're doing the internship, they help you build up your skills that you have existing, so you don't have to mold yourself into the job description. I think nowadays, with like all the LinkedIn posts, like, oh, I just got this internship, I got this internship, I think a lot of people are just pressured to just grasp onto any internships that they can get. And I guess what you guys are saying is that ignore the pressure, and just stay true to yourself, and sit down and reflect, and really know what you want in the future, right?
Yeah.
But do you guys have any advice for like maybe students who haven't figured it out yet? They don't know what they want to do in the future, but they know that maybe they should take an internship to see what it's like. Yeah, like maybe what advice would you give for a student still figuring it out, like still figuring out what they want to do in the future?
I have one actually. I think this is drawing from personal experience. Back then, there's a stage in my life where I wasn't sure whether I have the courage to go and do something, and I know that if I don't overcome that particular part, it's always gonna be something that will always pull me back, right? So this courage thing. So to answer the questions, right? It's the students really gotta know what is it that is holding them back,
Yeah.
right? What is it that's holding back? Are you being held back because you fear something? Find out what that fear is, right? And really just tackle that. So in my case back then, that first obstacle was, okay, do I have what it takes to start a business?
Yeah.
Do I have what it takes, right?
Yeah, that must be so daunting to
It
start
is.
something out of nowhere.
It is super daunting. And in fact, during that time, I was actually supposed to go to Silicon Valley for NOC.
Okay.
Done the interview, they offered me an internship. But back then I was doing something on the side, but that thing on the side, it wasn't really like confirm. But then I got to make a choice, what do I really want to do? And after I dig deeper, I realized that, okay, I need to take that first step.
Yeah.
If I don't take that first step, I will never take the first step.
Yeah.
Yeah, so find out what is that thing that's holding you back, and just put.
No, I really appreciate you saying that because it is daunting when you're like
Correct.
18, 19, still figuring it out. And also like coming from high school and then going into university, you're just in that school mode, you know? And to
Yeah.
take a summer off, most of us would just want to relax. Like it is a pretty intense curriculum. So I totally understand what you're saying about how you need to take that one leap. And
Yes.
of course, places like LinkedIn make it a bit more daunting than it
Yes.
should be. Like it really isn't that hard. But I totally agree that like the experiences that you gain from actual work experience are like unmatched.
Correct. And you know, I just wanted to chime in and say I really love the fear part. I heard someone say that, you know, instead of goal setting, once in a while maybe you should fear set. So you kind of write down your fears and then you tackle it one by one.
Oh,
And
I love
yeah, I think
that.
that's very, very good advice.
Yeah, and I also think like when you're unsure, you should just go for it and try. Because when you go for any job internship, I would say you'll definitely learn something. If your attitude is there, you are looking out for opportunities, you will always learn. At the most, you will learn like, oh, what you don't like.
Yeah.
And that can
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
advise you like, okay, maybe in future, the next job that I find, I definitely don't want to do Excel spreadsheet or I don't want to do a certain thing. That can actually help you in your future career search as well.
You know, now with like applying for jobs and the interview process, rejection comes up a lot. And it's about making yourself believe this is just a part of life. They're not rejecting me as everything that I am. It's just I'm maybe not perfectly suited for the role. Do you guys have any experiences with rejection?
Yeah, I fully agree with what they have shared. It's, I think at the core of it, you must be prepared to do some deep work, to know yourself, to understand yourself. And sometimes, sometimes it's about sitting down and reflecting, thinking, processing, but sometimes it's a learning by doing, right?
Yeah.
So you learn more about yourself by going out there, putting yourself out there, trying different things that you may not even think that pan out for you in the longer term. But just give it a try, meet people, chat with people, and I think. Even just taking time to really meet with people, talk to people, learn from their experiences, that really helps a lot as well. Yeah, and I think just particularly I think for students today, I mean, I do not envy the part of having all this exposure to social media. You're just being bombarded, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone is sharing about their life, their opinions about how life should go, what you should do next. And it's really difficult to then stay true to yourself and then think a little bit more about what really is right for me.
And it can be really overwhelming with so many opinions.
Exactly.
Like, I'm a senior, and in my current position, like I've been very grateful to have like multiple internship experiences, but it was also for me to figure out what I liked. Like I wanted to see, was a startup my energy, was an international company my energy, how could I add value to the world? Is it by doing something small, something big? Like I did advertising, marketing, entertainment. Like I've tried so many different things just to figure out, because I'm graduating in a few months and like I don't want to be in a position where I take the wrong decision. Like I think I'm also in that mentality of like life or death, first job is last job, and I know that's not true. So I mean, I want some advice from you guys, because I know like you've always been in Carousell, you know, your heart's been with Carousell, but you'd still be open for something new, right? And like we were talking about how important mentality is.
I think don't worry so much. Most important is really attitude. Even if you go to somewhere you don't like, but if you keep your mindset open, you have a positive attitude, you think about, okay, what opportunities can I learn here? Who are some people that maybe I can learn from? Then it doesn't matter where you are, even if you're in a place you don't like as much, with the right attitude you learn, that can take you to the next step for wherever you're going to go next. Yeah, so I think attitude is really key. If you ever enter a job you don't like, it's not the end of the world. Don't feel like, okay, I hate this job. I'm going to hate everything I'm doing. I'm going to hate everyone. I'm not going to talk to anyone. Then you're going to be stuck there way longer. So I have this thing that I always tell myself, right? Whether you do it happily or upset, you still have to do it anyway. And when you are happy and positive, it's a lot easier to get through something.
Thank you. I think that's really good advice, because currently in the job market situation, a lot of my friends have an almost pessimistic view about graduation now, because we don't really know what's waiting in store for us.
Correct. You know, I think speaking from like a student point of view, right? It's a very, I wouldn't say negative outlook, but it's a very highly stressful situation whenever that topic comes about, because we would say, you know, the job market now is very difficult to get intern. And then, you know, whenever we go on LinkedIn, we always see these people securing internships and everything. But
and then the news is layoffs, layoffs.
yeah, you know, so I think what you said is so important. Attitude, mindset, it's like it's something to get you through, right? Yeah.
I think I really like what Jing said. It's not the end of the world. So I think I always make it a point to tell myself, like, any decision you make, like U-turns are always available. U-turns are possible. And in the greater scheme of things, you know, your 80 years, 100 years of life, 2 months, 5 months delay, 1 year detour, really in the greater scheme of things, it's a very short time. So I think giving yourself the space, sometimes it's a little bit of self-psycho, right? Like downplay the importance and the consequence of that decision. Just you know, do your decision making, whatever, but move on. And one practice that I always have that I found very useful is because prior to NUS, right, I've done a lot of, I mean, in my career over the years, I've moved from private to public sector to private back to public sector. So I've done these moves which people advise you against. I've moved from tech to education to FMCG, fast-moving consumer goods, and so on. And all the time people tell you it's not possible, it's not advisable, right? So I have a practice of at every point where I think it's going to be a big or risky decision, I document. Because it's very easy to hindsight 2020 in 5 years' time, right? You regret what you did. You think, oh, did I really make the right choice when you are in a bad season? But then because I've documented it, I know that at that point in time, I made the decision with what I knew.
Yeah, this is how I felt at that time.
Yeah. And in 5 years' time, things changed. So you just take a U-turn.
Oh yeah, actually in line with the conversation about U-turns, I've been hearing a lot about this concept of jumping ship after 1 or 2 years. Like these days, I don't know if that legacy of, oh, I stayed at this company for 20 years. I mean, I would love to hear your opinion if how you're noticing the job market. Is it more common to go from one to another job every couple years, or is there still something valuable about staying in one company forever?
Yeah, I saw on TikTok, they say your life hack is that you change jobs every 2 years and you ask for a
10% increase.
10% increase or something like that. It's easier than just staying at a job where you get a 5% increase every twice a year or 3 times a year. What are your thoughts? I think it's a Gen Z thing, to be very honest.
I think fundamentally, if I were to just rephrase that question, I think it's more about what is your criteria of staying in a job, right? I think fundamentally, you got to ask yourself, are you learning or not?
Yeah.
If you are not learning, you're not growing,
The growth is stagnant.
your mind is dead.
Yeah.
Right? So perhaps that's a time for you to move to a new grounds and perhaps start learning again. Do things that really, you know, makes you feel like you're learning things on a constant basis. If not, I don't think it's sustainable.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think just use it as a criteria. 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, to me that is just an arbitrary number. Yeah, but of course I do see cases where people have some pay bumps, you know, when they hop between jobs. But my guess is that the reason why they can command perhaps a higher pay is also because of their learnings from the previous companies that allows them to again get their pay increments when they move to a new ground.
And I think for me, you should also ask yourself when you're at the job, firstly, do you like what you do? That's important. And also, are you learning new things? Because it should be challenging. If you just like something, but it's not challenging, that's not great as well. You want to be constantly improving. Next, also, are you good at it? And third, are you paid enough for what you are good and what you like? And if you kind of meet all 3 criteria, then I think if you're happy, you don't have to feel so pressured like, oh no, 2 years, now it's time to jump. I think follow your heart. If you think you enjoy what you're doing, you're still learning, you are happy with the pay, and that's okay. But if you really don't like your job, then start seeking around and explore new opportunities.
Yeah, I think it's like ikigai. It's like finding that happy medium. And also, like, I spoke to my advisor at NUS yesterday, and she was just like, okay, these are your thoughts. And I was like, I have a lot of thoughts. Like, help me figure it out. And she said the same thing, like, you know, prioritizing what is important to you. And I realized, honestly, just being happy, like just being, I I'm very blessed to say that I could be paid anything, but if I'm not happy, then I don't know if I would survive. Maybe it is a Gen Z thing,
Yeah,
but
it is. You know, I kind of like saw on TikTok again. It's a Gen Z thing. It's all on TikTok. But I saw like they did say like, oh, our parents, they worked for stability. So what they looked for is, you know, how long can I stay in this job? How long will this company keep me for? And that's the stability that I'm working towards. But Gen Zs, they want like a happy,
fulfillment.
fulfilling, happy environment, right?
Yeah.
Do you guys feel that way, or is that something you guys can relate to?
Yeah, I think for sure you spend 5 days at work. And sometimes I would say I see my colleagues and my bosses more than I even see my parents.
Oh.
Yeah. So I think for sure an environment where you're happy, people respect you, they are nice to you, they treat you well. I think respect is very important. That plays a huge role as well. You don't want to be somewhere where they are talking down at you. They don't like you. There's a lot of politics going on. I mean, after all, mental health matters. What's the point in earning a lot if you're not happy? Yeah.
Yeah.
On the topic of, let's say, environment and culture, right? I think it's important for, let's say, students who's just out there to be in an environment where it is safe for them to express their views and thoughts. Honestly, that's your way to learn, right? You put your thoughts out there. The thing about putting your thoughts out there is that you are at the risk of being attacked, right? So you gotta be in a space where people are open to talk about things, and people are willing to share and be open-minded about other people's view.
Right.
Otherwise, you find yourself it's like a very stifling kind of environment where I'm thinking of something, but I don't feel safe talking about it.
Yeah.
And then you build a lot of resentments within. You feel like,
Yeah.
okay, why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? It's
And it impacts your work eventually.
yeah, it does. It does.
Actually, Stephanie, I would love to hear from you because I mean, we're talking about this change from Gen Z work attitudes. Have you noticed a difference in how CFG, like the students that you meet, is there a change happening?
Okay, so clearly I'm the oldest one here.
No.
That's quite revealing, but
So as a CFG,
As a CFG advisor.
as a CFG advisor.
Sure. I think I mean just to verify, I'm not actually a career advisor. We do have career advisors at CFG. So yes. So I think yes, I think a lot of the students today or the young graduates, they do consider the culture of the company that they are joining as something that's quite important. I think one thing is many people in Singapore today are quite fortunate, right? They are usually in a situation where as a first or second jobber, they have the room and the financial support to be able to take time to explore and to do something they really enjoy and to go down a path they really enjoy. So I think we certainly do see that this comes up a lot more, right? When people consider not only the financial aspects of the role or the progression, but also the day-to-day, will I like being with the people that I'm working with every day? Are they my vibe? Are they my energy? Things like that and so on, yes.
Speaking of that, I'm sure you're all very busy with work, but do you guys have any other hobbies? How else do you spend your time? Or as a co-founder, do you feel like your time is really busy with work?
Not sugarcoating, but a lot of time you would really be spending on work, right?
Okay.
I mean that there's a clear difference between being a co-founder of a company that you're building versus, let's say, being an employee. I mean the stakes are really quite different. When the stakes are high, I mean it's quite natural that you really put in your all to really want to make it work.
Yeah.
So but on a more light-hearted fashion, right? right. How I find myself, let's say, do things that really unwind myself is really okay, I do read a lot.
Yeah.
I read, and I do go on picnics sometimes with my wife. And I guess, reading and spending time with my wife is something that I really find like it's a good opportunity for me to unwind myself, to unwind my brain, so that when it comes to the time to really go at work again, I'll be more recharged and be able to tackle it more effectively.
And I can add to that, like, I think resting and basically having a life outside of work is very important. I think nowadays work can get very busy. It's very easy to just work through the night. But I think what someone told me this before, right? Like basically taking care of yourself to become the best version of yourself is actually giving the best to others also. So that's why when we say like, okay, make sure work is not everything, it's not necessarily saying like, oh, don't do work, don't care about work, but make sure that you also put aside time for things that you like, people that you love, so that you can continue feeling like the best version of yourself, and then you can give the best version at work as well.
Yeah, I think that's really good advice. I think what we all have to realize is that we have to invest time and energy in ourselves and not so much on the outlook on to our job. I think when you go for an intern, at least speaking from my experience, I tend to get caught up in the stress. So even after my 9 to 5, I bring that stress home. But after a while, I realized, your job is your job.
Yeah,
So you
it's
leave
not
everything at your 9 to 5, and you come home to a home where you can rest, a home where you can think about other things, not just your
Exactly.
job.
Like a job is a part of your life.
Yeah, it shouldn't be your whole life.
It shouldn't be your whole life.
Correct.
That's one thing I've been speaking to a lot of my friends about, because now with like applying for jobs and the interview process, rejection comes up a lot, and it's about making yourself believe this is just a part of life. They're not rejecting me as everything that I am. It's just I'm maybe not perfectly suit for the role. Do you guys have any experiences with rejection?
Oh, tons all
For,
the time.
yeah, I mean, have a few back when I was still doing internships. And of course, sometimes I do reject applicants as well. But I think treat rejections as a way, you just got to think of rejection as a way that, oh, this is not a good fit,
Yeah.
right? If something is not a good fit and you just force yourself to go at it, it's just not going to work out,
Yeah.
right? Treat rejection as a way of, okay, enough of this. Now let me look for things that could, be potentially something that I really enjoy doing.
Yeah.
You just move on, right? But of course, there's one important thing that I think should take note of is after every rejections, find out why. Right? You may not get an answer, but at least you try.
Try it.
You'll be surprised that some people, they are actually willing to tell you why you're being rejected.
Yeah.
Sometimes it could be a reason that's beyond your control. It may not be you. It may be other things. But
That's true.
if it's, let's say, about your skill sets and so on, maybe that is something that you can really, double down on, so that you can prep yourself better for whatever role that
Comes next.
Yeah, whatever role that comes next. So, I mean,
Yeah.
that's how I would approach it.
Yeah, it made me think about the phrase. It's not called rejection; it's called redirection. Yeah. So whenever you come across a no or anything, you don't take it to heart. I guess other people have their reasons, and if you can't control it, then control your own path.
Yeah,
right?
it's guiding you somewhere else.
Yeah.
I really like what Raffles said, which is I think it's a very good practice if when you face a rejection to try to find out why. I mean, just from very personal experience, very often is actually not what you think. Like sometimes you have all this like, oh, did I not have the skills? Did I do the interview badly? But more often than not, there were other macro factors at play, right? And sometimes it could be very like small nuances, like the fit within the team. Not so much in terms of skills, but in terms of perhaps the overall, the vibe, right? You give off, just as you as a job applicant would want to sense the team culture, the vibe. Sometimes the hiring manager or the organization also has a certain culture, and they would also similarly assess, would there be this fit? But I think maybe if we dive a little deeper, what is perhaps harder is continued rejections. That means we do have conversations with, I mean, even friends, right? Not only students in NUS, even friends who face repeated rejections over a period of time. Now, that's a lot harder to manage. And I would say that if you were in such a situation, then it really requires, if you're finding a deja vu, then that requires perhaps seeking advice, whether, it's with a career counselor or whether it's with friends, and really finding out like why is it that these same things are happening, and then you may be able to break out of that pattern.
Yeah, there's so much knowledge you can gain, just like we said, like just by learning.
Okay, so moving on to our next segment, we actually looked into Reddit posts and NUS Whispers posts to kind of like see the confessions of a student in the job market. And one of them said, hey, would like to get some advice on a first job after graduation. For those looking for jobs, of those who those who have already found one, do you accept the first job offer that comes in your way? Or do you reject if you're unsure of the job? So I guess this person is more like, oh my gosh, this might be the only offer that I'm getting. Should I accept it or should I reject it and, look for more jobs that kind of fit me? I would say maybe in this person's point of view, let's say he's kind of like he needs a job ASAP. Yeah, what advice would you guys give to this guy? Yeah,
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one. It's like it's a very tough decision.
I had a similar experience actually when I was finding my internship, because like CNM has a mandatory internship, and at the time I was on exchange, so I was doing all my internship calls on like the night hours, US time zones, and I was in this position where like the deadline was approaching, so I needed to find an internship, otherwise I'd have to push a semester. But I had a few offers that I wasn't really sure about, but I was also like, can I really make the other ones work? So it was just kind of like that balancing act. But I got very lucky. I was on the last stage of a call and I basically told them, I really love this company, but I actually have to tell NUS in 2 days. And I know you can't tell me in 2 days. So I'm just going to thank you for this call and it's okay. And I was so blessed. They were like, no, we really liked you. If we can speed up the process, we can get you back in 2 days. So, I mean, that was an odd situation. I totally expect that. But I guess it was kind of what we were saying about going with your heart for this person's scenario. I mean, from the Reddit, I can't really tell how badly they need it, but if you're able to wait, especially if it's about a job offer, I would say wait. If you're not too sure about it, in my own like understanding, if there's other things that are still in the pipeline, because this person already had some applications on the way, so if there's something you're more certain about, I believe it'll come your way.
Yeah, that's true. I think like what you deserve will come to you.
Yeah. And if you're not sure about it, I can't imagine starting my first job on that type of uneasy footing.
That's true.
I like that part about, it sounds like what works for you is that you communicate your constraints to the other side. And more often than not, you'll be surprised that if the company actually see you as someone who can really contribute to the team, if they understand your constraint, they'll work their way to make sure that they get you in. Right? So don't be afraid to communicate your constraint across. Yeah, because more often than not, if the other side think that you're good, members of the team, they would try to get you in.
Yeah, so I guess what we'll tell this guy is that, you're unsure about your first job offer, right? And you have one that's waiting, but you really want this company. He should communicate to that company. Say, hey, I really love this job, but I'm restrained on time. Maybe we could talk something out, right?
Yeah.
And if it doesn't work out, he can find something else. Yeah, well, speaking about jobs, right, and the interviews, Raffles, you're on the other side of the table interviewing. I suppose hiring people and everything. So I guess your experience might be slightly different than what we've talked about. So how was your experience like, starting from the ground up, like starting from nothing?
Oof.
Loaded question.
Okay, I really, really, started on something, spending substantial time on something, starting from actually year 2 university.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
very
before that,
early.
it's really a lot of experimentations, trying to code something out, but didn't work out because I don't really have that skill sets yet. But at the very first time when I started, it started from a very idealistic mindset that, oh man, the things that I'm building, the world is going to want it, right? But looking back, it's actually not such a bad idea. Some people tell that, oh, you gotta go and test the market and find out whether there's something that people really want. But I'd like to take a little bit of a different view than that, right? If I look back at my student days, there are a lot of things that I didn't know about. If I have to worry about what the market wants, whether this is something that's going to be really turned into like a real business,
You can never start.
I can never start.
Yeah,
It's just too
exactly.
daunting, right? I'll be like, I have to be concerned with too many things. I will still go with my approach of being idealistic and just build things out. Just build things out and let's see where it takes you. Because in the process of doing that, you will find, at least for me, I find myself learning so much. I'm doing a lot of things that doesn't make sense, but that gives me that experience that tells me that, hey, don't do that in the future. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not the things that's being done during the starting phase is not really, time wasting, right? So, I mean, everything can be boiled down into one thing. That really is just go and do it. Really just do it. But before doing something, I realized there's something that's very important to overcome, and that is that fear, that fear of doing it. Am I wasting my time doing this? So one book that actually gave me the confidence, actually a shoe dog. I was reading
Phil Knight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A book about the Nike founder, how he started. When I look at how hopelessly average this guy, I'm like, if he can do it, maybe I can do it as well, right? And another thing I would like to touch on is that I know it's a little bit, diverging about internships, right? The things about internship is that if there's something that you want to do in your life and you're afraid of doing it, the internship is a good opportunity to look at someone who is slightly above you or maybe a few steps above you and look at how they do it. If you look at someone who is so average, they can do something that you are so afraid of, it actually gives you a confidence that if they can do it, I can do it as well.
Yeah. You can find your role models in internships.
Exactly. Yeah. To me, I think that is so important that it's often being overlooked. Just find someone, a role model, like you said, gain some inspiration and confidence, and that will really fuel you to just take that first actions. I mean,
thank you so much.
Everything just flows from there.
Yeah, that's such amazing advice. Thank you so much for sharing. Before we wrap up the rest of this episode, I would love to hear from both of you as well. Any parting words of wisdom for our listeners today?
If I could give some advice to my younger self, it would be don't sweat the small things. Don't worry so much. Just focus on yourself, and you'll progress from there. Yeah.
For myself, it's if I were to look back at my younger self, be like, bro, just go and do it, man. Don't think so much. You'll figure things out along the way. But of course, roughly have a direction. Roughly.
Yeah.
I agree. Don't be so fixated on the small details because it doesn't matter.
I guess it's all in the mind.
Just keep moving, gain a momentum, you learn along the way.
Wow.
That's so nice to hear.
That's really, really nice to hear. I think as students, it's very comforting for us to hear as well. Because, most of the times we're so caught up in everything. And it's so nice to see people who have made it already.
Yeah, it's just nice to feel like everything will work out. Everything will take care of itself. But yeah, that comes to the end of this week's podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We'd really like to thank Jing, Stephanie, Raffles. It's been really amazing speaking to you all.
It was a very insightful conversation, and we're very thankful. And so thank you guys so much for listening as well. We hope you guys liked this episode, and as usual, don't forget to follow us on all of our socials and catch you guys on the next one. Bye.